All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are well. Merry Christmas. Happy Tuesday. All that good stuff. Today is December 24th, 2024. Markets are open today, but they are closing at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We got a short day ahead of us. And the top story going on this morning is the banks. Oh, those adorable banks. They want more. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They are insatiable no matter what. The answer is always more. The story this morning that's got my attention, and my moderator Mish caught it. The big banks are planning on suing the Federal Reserve over their annual stress test. Now, in my opinion, the annual stress test has become something of a joke. I think the scenarios that are thrown at them, I mean, they're obviously scripted, but I think the outcomes are scripted also. It's become this kind of like, it was meant to be a way to make sure the banks were still operating safely and that they didn't present any existential systemic risk to the economy, and therefore to prevent more bailouts, right? We don't want any more bank bailouts, not after what happened in 2008. By the way, how's that going, the whole no more bank bailouts thing? Not so well. So the stress test was this way that we could challenge the banks on paper without creating a problem and be able to identify the banks that need more help and resolve everything. Well, the problem is now the stress test gets so much attention where it's a scripted outcome. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Well, if we tell the public how vulnerable the banks are, people would freak out and we'll create a bank run. So the whole stress test at this point doesn't even serve the purpose that it was intended to, because it's become such a dog and pony show. But now it gets even worse. The banks are claiming, or at least it's rumored to be happening, and they expect an announcement either today or at some point later this week of this suit. The banks are claiming that the Federal Reserve is in violation of the Administrative Procedures Act because the scenarios that are being thrown at the banks are created in secret. They're not telegraphed ahead of time, and they're not open to public comment first. And so I guess the banks are really saying, we want to know the questions that are going to be on the test before you give us the test, which must be nice. Number one, we're still eligible for public bailouts. So there's no real risk whatsoever, because no matter what we do, if we screw up, the public is going to backstop our bank, bail us out. I'll still get my salary. I'll still get my bonus. I win, heads I win, tails you lose pretty much. And then on top of that, we've got this stress test to make sure that never happens. And they're like, well, I'm going to sue you because you have to tell me what's going to be on it before you actually test. I mean, the banks just always want more. And look, I'm not a big fan of the Federal Reserve. I'm not a big fan of the big banks. When the two are suing each other, I'm just sitting here like, okay, they can kill each other for all I care. But the problem is, at the end of the day, it's all about how much more money can they squeeze out of you, the customer, or you, the taxpayer, or you, the dollar holder and the saver, who they're trying to eat away at via inflation. So this is just another story that's got me shaking my head this morning about the banks. Now, there's a couple other big ones going on this morning. American Airlines earlier this morning grounded every flight in the United States on Christmas Eve. Whoops, that's not going to go over so well with the headlines. Remember when that happened to Southwest? Yeah, Southwest took it over the head for that one. It looks like this issue has been resolved now. The update to the story came out just a few minutes ago that it looks like they finally fixed it. There was a glitch, a software glitch in their software that programs weight and balance in the plane based on, the weight of passengers, the weight of the luggage. That wasn't working this morning. So they grounded every single flight from American Airlines in the country. No report of a cyber attack or a hack or anything like that. But when I see a software glitch on the busiest travel day of the year, I can't help but think somebody on a computer on the other side of the pond is throwing monkey wrenches into people's holiday travel plans just because. But again, that issue appears to be resolved. We got another story about more stimulus in China this morning. This time it's $411 billion U.S. worth of special bonds that they plan to issue in 2025. That is a bigger number than the market was expecting. And the proceeds from those bonds are going to be used to spur consumption, in other words, helicopter money to people so they spend it, and to recapitalize state banks. Remember, Chinese banks have taken a lot of losses on their real estate holdings over the last couple of years as those developers have defaulted on their bonds, on their loans. And of course, the assets backing them are no longer worth anything near what they said they were. We've got Nordstrom is going private this morning. That story broke late yesterday, and 2018 called, and they said they want their headline back because I've heard about Nordstrom going private for years, but this is no longer a rumor. This is no longer people familiar with the matter. This is actually a press release from the company. Nordstrom is being taken private by the founding family as well as a Mexican retailer. They are taking it private for $6.25 billion or $24.25 a share. We also got a story about a Russian cargo ship. This one's worth keeping an eye on, possibly a geopolitical incident in the making. I don't know. A huge Russian cargo ship that serves their military logistics command, the Ursa Major. There was an explosion in the engine room, and the ship sank. 2 crew members are missing at this point. And again, this is one of the biggest cargo haulers that moves military equipment for the Russians. So anytime something like that happens, you have to wonder, sabotage, was that a role here? Was this an attack? Or, hey, this is the 4th Russian ship to go down in the last week or so. We had 3 oil tankers sank in the Black Sea recently. So I don't know if maybe this is just signs of stress in the world of logistics being caused by these problems in the global economy, causing ship operators to cut corners on safety. And now we're starting to have more accidents. Or is this a sabotage act? But this we'll probably be hearing more about that. And we have an interesting one in the Wall Street Journal this morning about insurance and taxes on mortgage payments. This is kind of interesting, guys. According to ICE data, which is, the Intercontinental Exchange, the people who manage most escrow payments for mortgages, insurance and taxes now make up 32% of the average mortgage payment in the United States. That is an all-time high since data started being tracked in 2014, an all-time high. So even if you own your house outright, even if you own nothing on it, they're still figuring out more ways to take from you in the form of taxes and insurance, which only ever go up. Well, guys, we got a short trading day. We're probably going to do a shorter show today, but let's shrink my melon of a head and let's see what's going on in markets while we're doing that. Hey, don't forget that like button for the algorithm. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we do this every morning so you can come back and have your coffee with the melon heads day in and day out. Also, just a reminder, guys, there will be no show tomorrow. Merry Christmas. And no show on the 26th because I plan to be enjoying a hangover on the morning after Christmas, and I don't want to miss the show because of that. So the S&P 500 is up by 10 points or 0.18% higher ahead of the opening bell. A little bit of green on this short trading day. The Dow is down 1.5 points. There's some green, up 2 points. Essentially unchanged here ahead of the open, and the NASDAQ is up 82 points, 0.38% higher. I guess this is what passes for a Santa Claus rally in markets these days. Meanwhile, the DXY a little bit higher here, 7 basis points at 108.11, but no big moves in the dollar happening this morning. Looking over at the bond market, we have yields are mostly higher, but just a little bit. The 30-year Treasury, 4.814. That's up almost 3 basis points. The 10-year, 4.625, up 2.5 points. The 2 years at 4.351, up just a fraction of 1 point, as is the 1 month at 4.320. Looking over at the commodities board, we got a lot of green in commodities here this morning. Again, small amounts, though. Spot gold, $2,614. That's up about $1.80 or 0.07% higher. Spot silver is also modestly higher this morning at $29.66. That's up just a penny, 0.04% higher. We've got coppers up by about 0.4%. Platinum is up almost 1%. Palladium is up by 1.5%. West Texas Intermediate crude oil for February is at $70.19, up by $1 here or 1.4% higher. Looking over at Bitcoin, we've got Bitcoin is a little bit higher than yesterday here, 96,283 as priced on Coinbase. We hit a low yesterday of 92,360 before we caught a little bit of a bounce this morning, heading higher here. Also going on in the commodities board, guys, let's take a look at this one. Cocoa prices. This is one of the ones we've been watching. This is one of those big, like way overextended going vertical futures along with things like coffee and orange juice and eggs are at all-time highs here. We've got cocoa futures drop as record run spurs profit taking amid thin trading. We all knew this was coming eventually. We've seen this before. Whenever the traders take it, they get too excessive They go way, way off sides. They speculate. They take it too high, and then you get the sell-off. It looks like that started a couple of days ago here. Cocoa futures extended declines in New York after a blistering rally prompted traders to lock in gains. The most active contract edged down amid thin trading ahead of public holidays. Futures last week hit a record, buoyed by forecasts for reduced output in top growers Ivory Coast and Ghana at a time when the supply is already tight. The market is keeping an eye on the development of cocoa trees in West Africa as the region enters the Harmattan season, which blows in dry, dusty weather from the Sahara. Farmers are already seeing an impact on the mid-year crop. Now, take a look at the chart for cocoa futures here, and you can kind of see it. We're showing daily candles, just a wild run for the last couple of months. Pretty much since mid-November, they've been going vertical. And then it looks like the sell-off began on the 19th, and now we've had a couple of days of lower trading here. So looks like the end of that rally, or at least a sign that it's the end of that rally. Now, do we take the elevator straight down? It seems like this sell-off is a little more gradual. So maybe this is just something more like a bull flag, and we're going to resume higher here, but we'll keep an eye on this one as well. Now, here's the big story this morning, guys. Biggest banks planning to sue the Federal Reserve over annual stress tests because they just want more. There's the Fed building there. The biggest banks are planning to sue the Federal Reserve over the annual bank stress tests, according to a person familiar with the matter. There's that guy again. A lawsuit is expected this week and could come as soon as this morning, the person said. The Fed stress test is an annual ritual that forces banks to maintain adequate cushions for bad loans and dictates the size of share repurchases and dividends. After the market closed on Monday, the Federal Reserve announced in a statement that it's looking to make changes to bank stress tests and will be looking for public comment on what it calls significant changes to improve the transparency of its bank stress tests and to reduce the volatility of resulting capital buffer requirements. Now, look, the whole point, guys, the stress test, it's meant to be a pop quiz. It's meant to be like, hey, there's this black swan event in the market happens. Can you handle it? So the whole point is it's supposed to be a surprise. So why do you want transparency? Like, I get transparency is this buzzword. And, in focus groups, everybody loves it. And, they always react positively to the word transparency. But the whole point is it's a sneak attack to figure out how good the bank's defenses are. You don't want transparency in the stress test. Transparency defeats the whole freaking purpose of the stress test. And I guess I'm shouting at nothing because the stress test has become such a scripted dog-eat pony show anyway that maybe there's no point in even shaking your fist at it. I don't know. The Fed said it will make the determination to change the test because of the evolving legal landscape, pointing to changes in administrative laws in recent years. It didn't outline any specific changes to the framework of the annual stress test. While the big banks will likely view the changes as a win, it may be too little, too late. Also, the changes may not go far enough to satisfy the bank's concerns about onerous capital requirements. These proposed changes are not designed to materially affect overall capital requirements, according to the Fed. The CEO of the Bank Policy Institute, Greg Baer, which represents big banks like JP Morgan, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs, welcomed the Fed announcement, saying in the statement that the board announcement today is a first step towards transparency and accountability. In other words, we want more. However, Baer also hinted at further action, said we are reviewing it closely and considering additional options to ensure timely reforms are both good law and good policy. In July, the groups accused the Fed of being in violation of the Administrative Procedures Act because it didn't seek public comment on its stress scenarios and kept supervisory models a secret. And again, guys, that is the whole point, to keep it a secret here. Now, look, these banks, I am all for the stress test being open to public comment period. Fine. If you want to know the answers to the questions before you even get them, or if you want to know what the questions are before you even get them, fine. But let's take bailouts off the table, permanent now and forever, and be done with it. I mean, the whole point of the stress test, along with the whole point of the Dodd-Frank Act, was that we don't bail out banks anymore. All right, we put this Dodd-Frank Act in place to say no more bailouts, but we left the back door open. We called it the systemic risk exception. And then, of course, every bank that has failed ever since we passed this has evoked that clause. But then on top of that, now they're like, the stress tests, they're too hard, and they're hurting us, and they're limiting the amount of loans that we can give. Well, if the stress tests are limiting the amount of loans that you can give, that's because your bank is under stress and you're more vulnerable and you're a risk to the taxpayers of needing a bailout someday. So, they want their cake and eat it too. I either do it or don't. But if you're going to don't do it, then get rid of the bailouts permanently. Like, just no matter what we end up paying. That's the thing here. All right, American Airlines grounds U.S. flights amid technical glitch. This was a big story this morning. It looks like it's behind us, guys. American Airlines said it's experiencing technical issues affecting all of its flights, disrupting operations on one of the busiest travel days of the year. Your safety is our utmost priority. Once this is rectified, we'll have you safely on your way to your destination, the airline said in a statement on X, without providing more details of the nature of the issue. Some online postings said that the airline was suffering a software outage, preventing it from calculating weight and balance requirements for its flights. The carrier said in a separate post that it was working on a fix and that it had no estimated time of resolution. The FAA said in an advisory statement that the carrier had grounded all flights nationwide. Now, this broke earlier this morning, and it looks like this is behind us because just a few minutes ago, we had an update. Brief American Airlines ground stop is canceled, FAA says. So I guess they resolved the issue. Again, they're saying it was a problem in the software. No indication at this point that it was a hack or a cyber attack, but you'll forgive me for speculating that may be what happened here because, I don't know, because Russia, because North Korea, and because screwing with Christmas travel plans sounds exactly what these a-holes would do. Anyways, American Airlines stock, it was down a couple of percent at one point this morning. Now it's only down about 0.6%. So it looks like they may have dodged a bullet here. Also going on this morning, China mulls a record $411 billion worth of special bonds, according to Reuters. The money will fund consumer subsidies and investments, according to this report. China's policymakers plan to sell a record 3 trillion yuan, that's about 411 billion US, of special treasury bonds in 2025, Reuters reported on Tuesday, a move aimed at bolstering the slowing economy. I wonder if that person familiar with the matter shows up in this article somewhere. Let's read further. The plan would be a sharp increase from this year's 1 trillion yuan and be used to support consumption and investments, as well as recapitalizing large state-run banks. According to Reuters, citing two unnamed sources. Oh, we were so close. They're unnamed sources. I was hoping it was people familiar with the matter, but I was way off. The reported fiscal measures come as China is mapping out its economic plans for next year, with top leaders hinting at bolder stimulus as Beijing faces tariff threats from the incoming Trump administration. Policymakers have pledged to expand the headline deficit and boost bond sales amid efforts to strengthen fiscal policy and boost consumption. And they're also going to use this money to try to recapitalize China's state-run banks. And as always, there's always a good nugget hiding in the last paragraph of a Bloomberg article. Today is no exception. In addition to issuing special treasury bonds, that's that 411 billion, Chinese leaders also pledged to increase the sale of local government special bonds next year, which are also excluded from the deficit figure. Now remember, guys, a lot of this 3 red lines policy and all these policies that have come down from Beijing, they're all meant to limit the expansion of local government debt. And after a few years of seeing the outcome of that, i.e. the real estate collapse in China, now all of a sudden they're scrambling to issue as much debt as possible to try to spur growth. It's not going to work. All of this local government debt that they issue, it ends up going to fund more construction projects. And the problem in China is they've got to stop building. They're like little doozlers from Fraggle Rock. They never stop. They don't even know what they're doing. All we know is we're programmed to build. We must build. But there are no Fraggles that come along and eat the buildings, maintaining the delicate balance in the ecosystem. And without Fraggles and the doozlers just keep building, you end up with buildings everywhere and no people to live in them. And so they've got to stop borrowing and building. And it seems like the only answer is we're just going to borrow more and build more. Well, good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you. Chinese stocks were slightly higher on this news yesterday, about 1.2%. This is looking at China's CSI 300 index. We had a little bit of a move in the index yesterday on this news. Not all that much. The big move, of course, came in September with all of that fire hose of stimmy talk. The market rallied like crazy, and then it kind of fizzled out because the numbers didn't really impress people, and we've just been kind of humming along in this range ever since. But the problems in China are not going to be solved with just a little bit of stimulus, guys. You need more people or you need fewer buildings. And based on the birth rate in China, you sure as heck are not going to get more people. So the solution to China's problem is a wrecking ball, not stimulus. Also going on this morning, Nordstrom to go private in $6.25 billion deal with the founding family and a Mexican retailer. This is you'd be forgiven for thinking this is an old story because we've heard about this for years, but it looks like it's actually happening here. Nordstrom on Monday announced it will become a private company after it agreed to a buyout deal valued at roughly $6.25 billion from Nordstrom's founding family and Mexican department store El Puerto de Liverpool. The company's board of directors unanimously approved the transaction, which is expected to close in the first half of 2025. As part of the deal, the Nordstrom family will have majority ownership in the company with 50.1%, and Liverpool will own 49.9%. Common shareholders will receive $24.25 in cash for each share of Nordstrom common stock that they hold. It's not the first time the retailer has tried to go private. A previous effort fizzled out in 2018. And then again in September, the Nordstrom family offered $23 a share for the chain, which valued the company at roughly $3.76 billion. Right now, Nordstrom shares, they're actually down a little bit here at $24.11, just below the offer for that buyout. Now, we'll see if shareholders ultimately have to approve on this. Maybe the number ends up going a little bit higher, but we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Russian Army cargo ship sinks in the Mediterranean after an explosion. The biggest cargo ship belonging to the Russian military logistics fleet sank in the Mediterranean Sea after an explosion in its engine room. The Ursa Major was lost in international waters following the blast. The Russian Foreign Ministry said on Tuesday in a website statement, 2 crew members sadly were missing and 14 others were rescued and taken to the Spanish port of Cartagena. According to the ministry, it gave no information on what may have caused the explosion. The Ursa Major, which had a capacity of 1,200 tons, and could fit 120 vehicles on its deck, was the biggest cargo vessel operated by the Oberlogistika. How's my Russian? The Oberlogistika, a company belonging to the Russian Defense Ministry that transports Russian military and civilian goods, according to the company's website. The vessel had undergone repairs to its crane in November ahead of the planned voyage. But look, guys, we don't know what it was. There was an explosion in the engine room. The ship sank. 2 sailors died on board. That's all we know at this point. This one, I would not be surprised to learn that this has something to do with sabotage, though. And then this one in the Wall Street Journal, this one's kind of interesting too, guys. I know a lot of people, I see a lot of people in the chat, they talk about wanting to own their house outright, want to get out of debt entirely. Even if you get out of debt entirely, you'll never be beholden to no one because of the insurance and because of the taxes. And that is a problem that is getting worse. Insurance and taxes now cost more than mortgages for many homeowners. Soaring costs for home insurance and property taxes are busting homeowners' budgets. Insurers have pushed big rate increases because of losses from natural disasters and rising costs to repair homes. Surging home values in recent years, meanwhile, have lifted property taxes for many homeowners. These ballooning expenses are rewriting the math of home ownership. In September, 32% of the average single-family mortgage payment went to property taxes and home insurance. That's the highest rate ever for data going back to 2014, according to the Intercontinental Exchange. Nationwide, taxes and insurers make up more than half of the monthly payment for 9% of single-family mortgages. That's up from less than 4% at the end of 2014. So for about 1 in 10 borrowers, their taxes and insurance is more than the principal and interest on their freaking mortgage. That is how high interest and taxes is getting. Now, this chart that was included in the Wall Street Journal article, this kind of shows data going back to 2014, the share of the average mortgage payment going to taxes and insurance. I would point out, guys, note the scale here. We're going from 29% to 33% on this scale. So it's not a huge increase, but it is the highest ever. All right. Going from 29 to 32, that is a 3% increase in the average mortgage payment. What would happen to your family budget after years of inflation if your mortgage payment were to suddenly rise by 3%? Would that be a cost that you can easily absorb, or would that come out even more of discretionary things like vacations and entertainment and things like that? It just speaks to this rising problem of home affordability. not just home prices, not just interest rates, taxes and insurance going up too. They are squeezing everywhere they can. And the cost of living just only ever seems to go higher, guys. And I just want to say a big thank you and Merry Christmas to Harmonair LLC. Thank you, sir, so much for supporting the channel. Merry Christmas to you as well, sir. He says, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. All I got to say is, well, too bad AC ain't in charge anymore. What movie? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much, Harmonair LLC. Appreciate the good vibes, sir. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Uncle Fedster says, Merry Christmas, Jack. I say Merry Christmas, Uncle Fedster. Good luck with your lawsuit in the banks, Fedster. I wish you well with your. They're not being transparent enough with our surprise stress test. Oh, my God. You got to love this stuff. Thanks a lot, Uncle Fedster. Merry Christmas, sir. Hunt and Cover says, Merry Christmas, Jack, and all melon heads. Have a good holiday season. Merry Christmas to you guys. Hey, I almost forgot. Here, I made this one, guys, while we're on the subject. How's this? We're trend setting again here. It's hard to do this. How's my Christmas tinfoil going for you? I made this. This is sadly not available in the Melon merch store, but a little embellishment to get into the holiday season. Thank you so much, Hunt and Cover. Appreciate the good vibes, sir, and the support of the channel. Chuck G says, Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas to you, Charles. Thank you for supporting the channel as well. Living Our Destiny says, hit that likes, people, and subscribe if you haven't. You better listen to him. He's been a Melonhead for 7 months, all right? He is a 7-month veteran, and, it's not my idea. There it is right there on the screen. You are compelled to like and subscribe while you're here. Come on back tomorrow. We do this every day. Thank you so much, Liv. Appreciate the support of the channel, sir. Brian Buck, I think I'm saying that right. Brian Buck says, Merry Christmas to the Melonheads, and Jack, good idea to plan in advance for a touch of the Irish virus on the 26th. I was like, oh, no, the Irish virus. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I get it. Okay. Yeah, the Irish virus. Sorry. About as sharp as wet leather this morning. Guys, twice in my life, I have missed a morning live stream. Once was when I was out in Vegas for the Silver Symposium. I was just out way too late, and I just couldn't get it done between that and the jet lag. I missed that one. And then the other live stream I missed was the day after Christmas last year. So we don't want to have a repeat of that. I'm trying to be a little bit more reliable. So we're going to plan in advance. So there will be no show on the 26th. If anything like sudden and urgent happens in the market, we'll go live spontaneous on that day. But thank you very much, Brian, for supporting the channel. Merry Christmas to you, sir. Kevin DeBella says, courtesy county assessed my house plus 30% in 3 years. Instead of fighting, I'm taking a HELOC at 7.5%. to pay off credit card debt at 27. Bank appraised it for even more. I don't get it. I'm in a rural town in a sea of corn. The county governments, the local governments, they're going to take everything they can from you. And when home values go up, they come out and they reassess and they mark up your taxes. So, as far as like taking out HELOCs to pay off credit card debt, you're winning there. I mean, you are 7.5% interest is obviously preferable to what they're charging on credit cards. The preferable solution there, Kevin, is not getting credit card debt to begin with. I know that's easier said than done, but that is the easiest way to get out of credit card debt is to not get into it in the first place. Keep that in mind, guys, as you're binging on shopping this time of year. Yeah, I don't get it either. Like the thing with taxes and insurance just only ever endlessly rising. It just goes to show you'll never actually own your home outright, no matter what. The costs are just going to keep going up. So thank you so much, Kevin, for supporting the channel, as well as providing the addict data. And he says, Merry Christmas, and thanks for the membership, M&J. Thank you so much, Kevin, for supporting the channel. Thanks, M&J, for the membership, and Merry Christmas to you also, Kevin. Nashville Pasta Man says, a county in Tennessee is raising the property tax basis by 100% retroactive for 2 years. So they're raising last year's taxes now? Well, F me. It seems like the government has invented time travel. Isn't that nice? And, of course, financially in their favor in a shocking turn of event. That's great. 100% retroactive for 2 years. We're raising a tax bill that you already paid. Landlords will pay 400% more property taxes this year. A test for the rest of the state. Devs are taking legal action. Merry Christmas. Well, first of all, Merry Christmas to you as well, Nashville. Thank you, sir. Look, the developers and the multifamily landlords there. Wow, 400% increase in property taxes. That's got to break a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people right now are existing only because they're playing this game called the floor is price discovery. They're like pretending their assets are worth more than they really are. So, if you throw a 400% property tax increase on top of that, it's just going to speed up the delinquencies and the defaults. So I think there's probably a pretty predictable outcome there. Thanks a lot, Nashville. Appreciate the anecdata, sir. The support of the channel. Matt Peterson says, I did a collection amongst people familiar with the matter, and they wanted you to have a Christmas bonus. It's a 1-year subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club. That's a gift that keeps on giving all year, Clark. Thank you so much to Matt Peterson, as well as thank you so much to the entire Familiar with the Matter family for taking up the collection for the channel. I appreciate that very much. You wonderful, jolly, anonymous people. Thank you so much. Armando Reyes says, get right with Jesus. We'll try, sir. We'll try, Armando. Appreciate the support of the channel and the good vibes, sir. Merry Christmas to you. M&J says, Merry Christmas, Melons. Thank you for being awesome. No, M&J, thank you for being awesome, for everything you do for the channel, keeping things all neat and tidy in the chat, along with Nan and Mish and my other mods. Thanks for everything, M&J. I appreciate it. Jose Orozco, what's going on, Jose? My man with the Buc-ee's corn nuggets, and he even changed his profile picture. There it is. I met Jose out in Texas a few years ago, and he gave me a bag of Buc-ee's corn nuggets, my first, and I'll never forget them. Those things were delicious. Jose says, Merry Christmas, Jack. Santa Rally canceled. It kind of looks like it because, Santa Rally usually happens the last few days before Christmas. And I don't know if you noticed, Jose, but the last couple of days have been rather do trading in markets, thanks in no small part to Jay Powell and his hawkish cut at the Federal Reserve. So thank you very much. It does look like the Santa Rally is canceled. We might get a couple of points today, but it's a short trading day, so probably nothing too big. Guys, thank you so much for all the good Christmas vibes this morning and the support of the channel. I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas, both to you and your families. If you're traveling, please be safe. And if you're flying American Airlines, I hope you get there eventually this morning. Just a reminder, we got a short trading day today. And thank you once again, everybody, so much for the super chats and supporting the channel. Thank you to my magnanimous melonheads on YouTube and on Patreon. You guys rock. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I love you guys. We'll be back later this week. Till next time, live small and dream big.